Okay, good evening. It is March 23rd, 2026. This is Debbie Davis. Okay, so I'm having, I'm being illegally surveilled just like crazy. And they keep, the other day I couldn't even get on my computer. Microsoft, I've shown videos of how I've had Microsoft things put on my computer that I never put on my computer. And so the other day, I tried logging in with my ID and, with my PIN on my computer, and I couldn't get in. And then it said reset up your PIN, and then it wouldn't. It almost didn't let me do it right now. Okay, so we have such a serious problem with illegal surveillance and illegal, and it's mostly the police and these intelligence agencies. So I just want to warn people, just truly how bad the situation here is with this illegal. We have to start curtailing. I think Tulsi Gabbard is doing a good job, but this kind of stuff happened before her. I mean, these things were implemented without our permissions. That's why Snowden did what he did years ago, trying to warn us about all this. Okay, but I wanted to warn people that veterans, let's see, called, okay, yeah. So I was trying to call just to get my VA award letter a few days ago, and I accidentally called this 701 number. It says like some kind of a regional office. It was a 701 number. I guess I had, instead of the regional office, I had called them. And it was really creepy because this guy he said, so it turns out that that's some kind of a mental health line. And this guy was super creepy. Okay, he said, can I get your name and information so I can document the call? And I said, sir, if this is not the correct number to the regional office where I can get an award letter, you don't need to document anything. Okay, and he was literally like harassing me into giving my name and information, like he was trying to document that I was calling for mental health reasons. Dude, I wasn't calling this number for mental health reasons. I was calling to request a VA award letter, and this was in the records of some kind of regional office. Okay, so this guy literally, it's gotten to the point where it's so scary at the VA that the veterans are afraid to even go in for help there, and they're trying to find ways of locking us up. There was that article that came out just like a week ago saying that they're going to try to. This is probably Pete Hegseth that's probably trying to implement this. We don't trust him as veterans. I personally don't trust him. I don't know more than that personally, but he is from the Minnesota National Guard, and he's never tried to reach out to me. And I'm a Minnesota. I was in the Minnesota National Guard for 8 years. And I never knew him, and so I don't know. And you would think me as being a whistleblower and that I'm from Minnesota that maybe he would know me or anything. No, huh? So, or try to help me possibly with my situation if he was any good at trying to help veterans, because of the way that I was illegally pushed out after reporting a crime. No, and that's actually what I'm going to show today for people that don't know my story. I'm going to show the documentation of what I actually turned in as a whistleblower years ago, because I have all the documentation here. But anyway, so yeah, I tried to call this number just to request a award letter the other day. Then when I finally did call the right number and get my award letter, they sent it in an email, and then I couldn't even open the email. It was encrypted, and I couldn't even open it with my phone. It's just like, what is the point? So then I had to have it faxed. It's just such a racket in our country with just everything is so corrupt. And then I get this random phone call from the Fargo VA. I think this guy from the office and the 701 number in Bismarck, I think he actually tried to get my information, even though I didn't give any information of who I was at all. I was calling the wrong number. I tried to call the regional number for an award letter, not for mental health reasons. Okay, and I believe that this guy. So all of a sudden, I get this random phone call from the Fargo VA, and I believe this guy had me turned in for mental health just because I called the wrong number. Okay, this is how crazy it is. And so this, like a week ago, they said there was some crazy article that came out saying that the VA is trying to implement guardianship or things like that. Okay. Oh, so is this like, is this like you're going to try to put veterans away that are speaking out about the government, about their own government? I've been a whistleblower for 13 years, okay? And I'm going to show the documentation tonight so people know exactly who I am and what I reported, okay? So you can't say that I am, I've been a whistleblower and I reported this 13 years ago. If there was something invalid or illegal or crazy about something I have said, I would have been arrested by now or put, okay, so here's my actual documentation. So let's just get the record straight right now. I am the one who reported this crime. I turned, so this is what I reported for those of you who don't know my story. This is what I reported back in 2012, okay? I was the soldier that was talked about in this article. It said, while members of the Arizona National Guard were in harm's way, Eugene Burns, a retired colonel, was apparently got away with embezzling $2.7 million out of the Arizona Emergency Fund. Okay, this was myself and another female that saw this guy making illegal withdrawals from the Emergency Relief Fund, and then we reported it to the governor's office. Here is the actual document. Thursday, April 14th, 2011, 10:32 a.m. So feel free to take pictures of this. This was the actual person we reported it to, Thomas Adkins. Okay. It was then turned by Thomas Adkins into the Arizona Auditor General. And so clearly, and then this was clearly before this article came out. This article came out finally February 2012, as you can see. And I reported it in April of 2011. And they found, after they had done the full audit, $2.7 million missing. Okay? So we are the ones who reported this when I was working there. Okay, so management oversight was apparently lacking and numerous red flags were ignored. Okay, doesn't that sound familiar with like what happened in Minnesota? The same thing happened. So, and immediately when I moved back from Arizona to Minnesota, I started getting harassed by the police. So clearly to me, this is, to me, and the way that the police are still harassing people and still, and the way that they, what happened to Melissa Hortman, it was an undercover cop that showed up to her house and shot her. I fully believe that the police are involved and they're not protecting I believe that they're part of protecting the fraud, and they're involved in the fraud because they were fully involved in my harassment when I got back to Minnesota, where I was from here. So, or where I was from there. Okay. Numerous red flags were ignored. Okay. Yes, I mean, so we were the ones who reported this. That was the actual documentation that I sent. This guy was the military liaison to Governor Jan Brewer's office at the time. This is the actual document. We stated that we believe there's possibly millions of dollars of fraud, waste, and abuse. Okay. Well, there was also, the other girl had also been raped. So there was that type of thing too. she had actually witnessed him making withdrawals. We were out both noticing things at that base, and that made most of the females that were like the admin people feel very, very uncomfortable. You can't expect somebody to work in an environment like that, like it was. It just was really, it's just terrifying. It was terrifying to even go to work there. It's probably, it's kind of like what the state representatives and things are going through in Minnesota right now, where they're literally afraid to go to work. I mean, that's what it was like. Okay, so now the state representatives are getting an idea of what we felt working at this base, where, you know, we felt like we could be murdered there, for sure, you know. And so that's what came out. And then after that came out, there was multiple articles that were written by a guy named Dennis Wagner, that worked for the for the Arizona Republic. Okay, so he did a whole series called Letting Down the Guard series. Okay, this came out in October 2012. He did a whole series because this other guy came forward as well, named Staff Sergeant Chad Willey. Okay, and he was, and it all involves this one General Hugo Salazar. Okay, so my friend, this guy I worked with, Chad Willey, he was in the recruiting office, and he tried same thing. He tried reporting. He tried reporting some of the other recruiters for fraudulent recruitment type things going on, and then he basically started getting death threats. And so he went to Dennis Wagner, and Dennis Wagner did a story about him, okay, in his situation. But then he did a whole series called Letting Down the Guard series. It began when several high-ranking Arizona National Guard officers approached reporter Dennis Wagner with allegations of corrupt conduct that spread within the military organization because of lack discipline and leadership failures. During a 5-month investigation, the Republic employed sources in Arizona's public records to obtain more than a dozen military investigations, police reports, court files, and other records. Wagner also spoke with at least 30 present or past Guard members. I was one of them, as well as outside military experts, military affairs. Okay, okay. You know, so it says a 2-star general was asked by Governor Jan Brewer's office. Well, if this is General Salazar and he's asked to investigate himself, well, that doesn't work. To investigate misconduct and leadership issues in the Arizona National Guard. Investigation was launched in the aftermath of Arizona Republic reports exposing years of misconduct by Arizona military personnel and raising questions about Guard's leadership and culture. Allegations of wrongdoing, including sexual abuses, fraud, embezzlement, retaliation against whistleblowers. Okay, tell me about it. Okay, so there was a whole series that came out in the Arizona Republic. Okay, a whole series. Okay, that went on for weeks of him. Captain Jonathan Simmons, an Air Force spokesman with the 355th Fighter Wing, said Turner faces 4 charges under the Uniform Code of Military Justice: assault of a superior officer, disrespect of a I don't know what. The U.S. Air Force held jurisdiction rather than National Guard because Turner's alleged outburst. Okay, this was the retaliation against this guy. Numerous soldiers and airmen have submitted complaints to federal lawmakers and to Brewer in the past, alleging corrupt misconduct and leadership failures. Letters and emails include pleas for assistance and charges of cronyism, sexual harassment, fraternization, all kinds of stuff. Okay, so he had gathered all this information and did a whole series about it. Um, Members of the Congress just referred letters back to Brewer, and then she did nothing, and then she submitted it back to Salazar. Okay, so it just didn't go anywhere. It was like a circle of nowhere where they were all just, in on it. It needed an outside investigation. This is what everywhere. Minnesota needs an outside investigation. Federal, South Dakota here, everywhere. I mean, some whistleblowers aware of that practice and fearful of reprisal wrote anonymous warnings to Brewer concerning the Adjutant General's conduct. Okay. The Arizona National Guard has more than 99,100 personnel, including about 5,200 soldiers, 2,500 airmen who join to serve their state and country. In the aftermath of the Republic series, not one complained that articles exaggerated systemic flaws. Basically, everybody concurred with what Dennis Wagner reported. Mark Wessner, a combat veteran, said he joined the Arizona Guard in 2012 from the Army Reserves. I soon found out that they were looking for politicians, not pilots. Your article only scratches the surface of the cronyism and nepotism going on there. I don't know anyone who has been in the Guard more than a year who cannot tell you how shady this stuff is. Okay, then and then Sergeant Debbie Davis, soldier of 12 years, became a target of abuse after joining an engineering unit as the only female. She tried going through her chain of command, filed complaints. None of them did anything about it. Every single agency did a cover-up. Could not believe it. Okay, there were other females as well that were having problems. Okay, so this was him writing about me in the article here on the bottom. So I was in the series, the whole series that he did of letting down the Guard. My name is mentioned there. I was working with Dennis Wagner with the Arizona Republic. Okay, so basically, we tried. You're supposed to follow the chain of command, and that's what you do. And then when it doesn't work, then what do you do? Okay, so, I mean, nobody can say anything about my credibility or anything. I've been working with documented reporters for years, okay? I've been on multiple different radio shows. I was in this whole series with Dennis Wagner. This was all documented with myself and multiple other Guard people. So it's really crazy to me how still after all these years and just the level of, I mean, I'm a well documented federal whistleblower. Okay, it's been 13 years I've been on probably 15 radio shows. In different articles, and they still would just love to call me crazy and have me locked up if they could, okay? Or, whatever they're trying to do now, this latest thing. What is this guardianship? It's just like, this is like the latest thing that they're trying to do, I think, to try to shut up veterans that are speaking out, maybe that don't like the current administration. I mean, you can't do that. I mean, you can't do that type of thing to veterans. Never have they ever, has any that ever happened in the military. I've never seen an article like that. That freaked all kinds of veterans out. A guardianship, it's like, okay, like basically it was pretty obvious that was like a threat to veterans speaking out. It said they're going to try to implement a guardianship for veterans. It was just like, what is going on here? Guardianship. It's like is that, here she is in her 20s or 30s or whatever, and she still had some kind of, her father still had some kind of guardianship over her. Okay, this is like what you're dealing with when you have an Illuminati family. And I know about that, and I'm going to tell part of that at a different time about that. But that is what they can do when you're from, that type of family. And she was trying to get out of it, and it's like he had her in some kind of a prison still and she didn't know how to get out of it, like he still had some kind of control over everything, every area of her life. And it was it's just like, how do you deal with a situation like that? Because I don't think the courts could help her. It's insane. We have to change things in this country. There's just too much corruption, and we can't go on this way. Okay, so so this was, look at these people's faces. They both just look so guilty. Look at them. This is Jan Brewer and General Salazar. It was a whole series that came out. Okay, even when investigations are launched, the Arizona National Guard insular nature becomes problematic. So this was more. Okay, then there was a whole series that of Chad Willey. This was another guy that I worked with. Whistleblower had target on his back. He actually got death threats. He never got subjected to 2-year campaign of harassment for investigating unethical behavior. All he did was turn in a couple of tried to report a couple of other recruiters that were involved in unethical recruiting practices. That's it. As a higher ranking recruiter, he felt that it was his responsibility. And then he got massive retaliation, and I think he got passed over for promotion, I think, for 5 years after that. And I talked to him maybe 6 months ago, and he said he never got anything ever resolved. Neither did I. We've never gotten any kind of reimbursement or resolve for any of these matters. All these years later, I was illegally completely kicked out. I was forced to take a medical, and even though there was nothing wrong with me. And so I lost out on my entire military career. He lost out. The other guy in the Air Guard lost out. He was passed over for 5 or 6 years. We're talking where you should be E7 and instead you're still an E5 or an E8 and you're still in that is a lot of money. Okay, and that's the same thing that happened to Staff Sergeant Willey. We're dealing with just such, and it all involves money. All these places are involved in some kind of fraud. So we can figure out that much, that it seems to all involve the fraud, because this base definitely involved a huge fraudulent issue going on. So, and I think just all the other crimes went along with the fraud. So investigation of National Guard conduct and culture has uncovered systematic patchwork of criminal and ethical misconduct. This guy did a really good job doing an entire series for like a month, and he tried to help, but if nobody in Congress or, it's like, oh, the Congress passes it to her, then she passes it to the general. Oh, the general's gonna actually investigate his own base, and it doesn't even occur to anybody that maybe he was involved in that, and that you'd expect that to be a real investigation. Everything, everywhere, all these places, our entire country, it needs to be outside investigations, outside federal investigations that are not associated at all, because there's just fraud everywhere. It's just every state now, they're finding it, and clearly, it's just, it's got, you can't ever rely on the inner people that have been involved in Congress or governors or whatever anymore to be responsible for the investigation of their own self or their own state, because clearly it's clear now how that works. It doesn't work. Okay, so yeah, And we don't even know if this guy actually did any prison time. It said that this Eugene Burns, apparently, who uncovered 2.7 million of a, apparently he did, 3.5 years in prison, but like nobody has any idea if he did actually any prison time at all. Okay, that's the other thing, is there's no evidence that he actually did any real time, you know, none at all. So we don't know what happened there. And then this guy was even running for some other. He was in some kind of a political position, I think, after that, even when he got out. I mean, just it's just so horrible and gross, and it seems to involve the same people that are it seems to me that it's involving people who are involved in intelligence agencies and secret societies and things like that are involved in this type of thing. It's all the same. Seems to be intelligence agencies and secret societies. Okay. Then there was there was just crazy stuff going on in Arizona. Then there was this other story. I think this is the last. Okay, so this is the end. I think of. There's other stuff here, but there was this other story that police want help catching Valley veterans killers. 5/30/2011. There was some veterans that were killed that had served in Iraq and made it home safely, but then lost their lives right in their own communities. And it was a really another weird story, okay, involving the Guard. Okay, Memorial Day, police asked for help bringing justice to 2 fallen heroes. Okay, they came back from the war, wanted to have fun with their families, from 2 different, senseless acts of violence in their own home state. Brandon Cusmet and Birch, Birch Birch was home less than a year. He was killed. Cusmet was killed riding his motorcycle. He was in a motorcycle accident. He was hit by a black pickup truck. Apparently there was no real investigation of either one of these people. I don't know. This is what I'm saying. I mean, how can we trust the police? Staff Sergeant Carl Markovich. This was a guy that I worked with at the base. This happened when I was working there in 2010. He showed up for a drill weekend. Somebody came behind him in the parking lot and slit his throat. And that happened right when I was working there. We never heard, if anybody was ever caught. We never even saw any real investigation going on. Okay. He was reported for drill training. He was next to his vehicle. We believe the suspect came from behind and slit his throat. Okay. Markovich had served two tours in Iraq. He was looking forward to another Afghanistan tour. Okay. So this was the report that came out. KPHO, CBS 5 News. Okay. And these were two soldiers that had served and then came back and lost their lives right in their own state, very mysteriously, and doesn't seem to be proper investigations of any kind. Okay. I think there's a lot of veterans and military and everything. Yeah, we're totally freaked out. I think I personally am totally freaked out about my own government. I feel like there's not real accountability or real investigations of any kind. We don't feel like we can report things properly to the authorities like we are supposed to be able to. Okay, so I have documented evidence that I've been involved for years in trying to report different things and working with professional reporters. I was on the Sarah Westall show. I was on several other radio shows talking about my whistleblower story. And I have had this channel for over 10 years. So, for them to still try to act like I'm somehow not legitimate or try to say something in any way like that. I mean, I have so much evidence that I've been involved in working with legitimate people for years. So if people don't know my story, I wanted to show some of those stories today and the people that I've worked with and the evidence that I have that I had submitted and things like that. Okay.